I really, really enjoy the medium of film. I have a ton of appreciation and respect for the filmmaking craft. I love movies. I love watching them. I love talking about them and discussing them. I love the variability in the art form, and it's something I've consistently said on this channel, in streams, on social media and such, that it's a medium I wish I could explore more than I do, but I just tend to give priority to stuff that's important for my content creation, like anime and manga, and video games. And video games just tends to be my favorite as well, in addition to that. And so for that reason, while I do watch a decent amount of films and have done throughout my life, I'm kind of dwarfed by a lot of my friends who explore the medium to a greater degree, who are much more learned in the medium than I am, who are much more aware of the things to do with the industry because they just have more experience with it. And I often kind of see that and am a bit jealous, because I wish I could get more into films, but it's just a time thing. Our time is very limited, and hey, it is what it is. I still get to watch a decent amount of films. I ramble. The point I say this is because, actually, in the past couple of weeks or so, I've watched lots of films. In the past couple of weeks, I've watched something like 8 or 9, which is a lot for me. It's just kind of ended up that way. I don't know exactly how, but it's been cool. It's been cool. I've taken a break from video games off stream, and I've spent a lot of time reading books, which is another medium I kind of neglected, as I've talked about before, and watching films, and it's been great. I've really enjoyed it. And because of sort of this renaissance with film, what I tend to do is go long stretches, go a few months without watching many films at all, really wanting to, and then binging a bunch within a couple of weeks to a month. Almost every winter I do that, but I've done that in the middle of the year as well this year. And it's made me sort of consolidate a list on Letterboxd, which my Letterboxd account, you can follow me on there if you want to, but it's not extensive. There are lots of films that once in a while I go, oh, I watched that, and I put it in there. It's not extensive. I've forgotten a bunch in there. I might forget a bunch in this video, but I put together a list of my favorite films of all time on there, so I figured I'd share it. I figured it would be a fun thing to do, to sort of share and talk about the love I have for this medium. And while I would say the average film I don't tend to love as much as the average manga or anime or video game or TV show, I still have a lot of love for a lot of films, and I want to share that here. I'm not going to talk about these films in great depth. There are 45 on this list, a few honorable mentions, and then a bunch that I would call genuine favorites. So just a bit of a blurb for each one, especially the honorable mentions. So, sorry for the big preamble. Let me fix my camera. There we go. So, these, I would say the first 5, 6, 7 or so are honorable mentions, but very much worth talking about, and a lot of them tend to be animated. A Silent Voice, most people at least very much enjoy this movie, and I do too. Very emotionally moving, very beautiful. 100 Meters I actually talked about in my recent media experiences of 2026 so far video. Unbelievable, adrenaline-fueled hype movie that I really, really liked for lots of reasons, very applicable to me. And by the way, this order is kind of rough. In some of these, you could switch the order around, but it's pretty rough. Spider-Man 2, very nostalgic movie, very formative, that to this day I have a lot of respect for and really enjoy as one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen. And just to be clear, there are movies that are not on this list, that did not make this list, that could be on here, that I really have a lot of respect for and really enjoy, and that have made me emotional. Like, recently I watched Project Hail Mary. Really, really enjoyed that. Got me very emotional. It could easily be here. I think I just want some time to reflect on it. Same with something like Django Unchained or Inglourious Basterds, both awesome movies. and stuff like that. There's another I was going to say, but I forgot it. There are other ones that can make it on here, for sure. I could round it out as a top 50, but it is what it is. Haikyuu, very flawed movie, the Nekoma movie, because it's cut out so much. I didn't even rank this, I just realized. It cut out so much, and just as a result, it just isn't anywhere near the manga, but, I still love it. I still think it takes tons of interesting creative liberties that enhance the material in some ways, and it's so adrenaline pulsating. It's just an incredible experience, even if it doesn't come close to the richness of the manga just because a lot had to be cut. Princess Mononoke, my favorite Studio Ghibli movie. I'd say these are something approaching honorable mentions. No Country for Old Men. I really appreciate this. Of course, I'm kind of discussing this one even more than watching it. I still think it's very entertaining and riveting. It's a great sort of slow burn Western that is very metaphorical and allegorical in what it has to say that I really enjoy. But I almost like discussing it more than watching it. That's not a criticism. It's just how I interact with it. But I rewatched it recently, this past year or so, and man, it was really, really good. Pulp Fiction, to me, I don't get a lot of personal, like, tons of incredible meaning or emotion from Pulp Fiction. I just really, really love the pure entertainment it brings me. It's tons of fun. Every moment is engaging in one way or another. It's just tons of cinematic fun to me. I really enjoy it. Nosferatu, I have a lot of love for. I think it was my first Robert Eggers movie, but I love the set design, I love the atmosphere, I love how it's kind of cheesy and campy in certain ways. The overall direction, the overall approach, it's very classic and nightmarish and gothic horror, and it just really leans into all that. I lost myself in that movie when I saw it, and I really, really enjoyed it. I would say now we're getting into the genuine proper favorites of mine. American Psycho, very deliciously dark, and kind of darkly comic. Really love the approach, find it fascinating. Really interesting sort of directorial flourishes as well. Really enjoy it. Sinners, I recently saw, funny story is, Sinners, I recently saw on a plane ride. I went to the UK, for a trip, this past December. I went to the UK on a trip, and the in-flight entertainment was a bunch of movies. I'd been wanting to see Sinners. It had been out for a few months, and I checked it out. But the funny thing is I watched about 25-30 minutes of it, and I was watching it with my partner, and we realized this movie deserves to be viewed on at least a regular-sized TV, not the tiny TVs we have for the in-flight entertainment. So we just put it on the back burner and, went to sleep or watched stuff on our phone or something, and actually gave it at least a genuine TV-sized screen. I watched it when I got to the UK, and it's fantastic. The music scene, if you know what I mean, to me... By the way, I don't plan to spoil any of this. I'm just going to be speaking vaguely about these movies. I figured you'd gather that. But the music scene is one of the best scenes I've seen in any film. It is so, so beautiful in what it gets across about culture and music and all how it all coalesces together, and the direction of it. It's incredible. The performances are great. It's so out there with its approach and so abstract and creative, and I love that. I love what it does with music. Sinners is so great. Warrior, the 2011 movie. This one I actually could see myself... I don't know. It's been a while. I saw this upon release, I think a year after it released when it came out on DVD or Blu-ray. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I still think back on it fondly. And in my heart, it roughly goes at about this spot in my list. But I would like to rewatch it sometime and see if it sort of holds up. Maybe it's higher, maybe it's lower. But I really, really love it. I specifically remember a sort of musical score. A musical score used within the film that moved me to no end. The performances are great, the character arcs are great. I find it very inspirational and very moving and pathos-driven. I can't imagine that it would drop out of this list, but I'm curious how I would feel. Then we get to, what's funny is initially I didn't actually include animated movies on this, especially ones that are attached to anime series, because it's very hard for me to separate my feelings for the manga and anime with my feelings for this individual movie. But I tried my best. In some ways it's impossible to separate them, and I'll be upfront about that, but I tried my best to. Here we have the Chainsaw Man movie, the Reize arc, that came out last year, or late 2025, and man, this is pure, just absolute pure cinema. It really digs into the draw of Chainsaw Man being wacky and eccentric and entropic and incredibly colorful and all over the place, but it really accentuates scenes. It has such an understanding of the Reize arc, the emotional core of it, the musical score, and the, I guess, care that's put towards the scenes that are prioritized. Some quieter moments, some bigger moments, some moments that I expected to be prioritized, and some that I didn't expect to be prioritized. It's such a beautiful work of art, and it really made me heighten my appreciation for this arc, and heighten my appreciation, give me sort of a renaissance for Chainsaw Man Part 1. It's a beautiful film, and I'm putting it here. It could potentially be higher. It could be higher than this. It really could. I absolutely loved it. Number 33, 12 Angry Men. I would say one of the closest films to perfection on this list. I saw this 15 years ago or something when I was very young, and rewatched it a few years after that, and remember it holding up incredibly well. I'd love to watch it again. The dialogue, it's incredible how enrapturing this film can be, just considering what the premise is. Very dialogue and characterization focused, the way that certain point of views bounce off one another, and what it says en masse, comprehensively through its messages and how all that's executed. It's something close to perfection. And I wonder if I were to rewatch it, if it would be higher than this, but as it stands, definitely a favorite. There Will Be Blood is one I rewatched this past year, so it's very fresh in my mind, and I really, really, really have a lot of love for it. Sorry, one sec. I just need to check one thing. Okay, just checking Daniel's name. I knew Daniel's name, but I didn't want to screw up and say the wrong thing. Daniel Plainview, I think, is a very fascinating character with regards to his progression and relationships. I really love how dense and interpretive the movie is, and the different ways you can interpret certain scenes, but more than anything, I find it a very stirring, almost lament of a film in terms of the moving tide of ages and cycles and pockets of history, and how things progress throughout the world, and how people are stuck within it, or move on cynically. I think it's a really, really interesting piece, fascinating, and yeah, I had a lot of fun rewatching it. Next up, The Truman Show. This one is a movie that throughout the entire time I was watching it, I found myself going, wow, this is very smart, it's very, very tight, it's very well put together, but only at the last scene did it really sort of come together for me in a way that really made me emotional, that really kind of hit me. And suddenly I was faced with the fact that this was a favorite film of mine. I think it's very moving. I think it's such a beautiful film and such a thought-provoking film. I really, really dig it. Into the top 30. Rurouni Kenshin Trust and Betrayal. One of the first, I guess, anime things I've seen. One of the first 30 or 40 anime things I've seen. And it's really stood the test of time. Obviously, there are horrific things attached to the writer. I don't actually know how much input they had into this origin story for the series. Probably a lot. I don't actually know. And of course, I have nothing but condemnation for them. However, I cannot deny how much I love this adaptation. I think it's, if you look at the tonality, if you look at the approach, how moving and tragic it is, how upsetting and visceral, how beautifully directed. The direction, I think, is the reason that this sticks with me as much as it does. The music, incredible. The background art, the presentation in general. I think the presentation goes the full 9 yards in making me feel so close to it. It's something akin to a masterpiece. Beautiful film, and one of my favorite, I think it came out in 3 OVAs or 4 OVAs, something like that, as well as a film. But yeah, it's one of my favorite, if you can call it that, if you can categorize it as a film, anime films. Grand Budapest Hotel, I watched this recently in the past couple of years, and I was really shocked at how much it hit me. How much it said, how much it did, while being very taut and tight and well-paced, but not afraid to linger and reflect and contemplate. I just think it has the perfect balance of so many elements that make it form a cohesive package that really hit me. Yeah, I saw it, like I said, recently in the past couple of years, and it really struck me, and I was thinking about it for quite a few weeks afterwards, and my mind still lingers to it to this day. Let me do a little bit of a rearrange. I think looking at the way I arranged this right now, just now, makes you want to change the order of something. Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Okay, just a little rearranging. I put Rurouni Kenshin up a couple places. The Fighter. This is something I'm very nostalgic for. There was a period in my life, the two or so years between 2010, 2011, 2012 or so, where I was obsessed with this movie. I saw it in theaters. I watched it at my friend's place. And my friend had gotten a copy of it that may not have come through official means, but I checked it out and with horrible quality, loved it, loved the music, loved the really sort of gritty, down-to-earth approach. It's a really interesting, because it covers similar subject matter to Warrior, but approaches it in terms of presentation in a totally different way. Love the presentation, the portrayals, the performances. This is one that, if you haven't, a lot of people I talk to haven't actually heard about this one, despite there being big actors in it. If you haven't checked it out and you want something that takes a sort of a different approach to the boxing, fighting concept, a bit more down to earth, a bit more mundane, give it a go. It really surprised me, and it might surprise you. I have a lot of love for it. Talked about Rurouni Kenshin already. Obsession. I debated putting this higher, actually. I watched this a few months ago in theaters. It is not only one of the scariest pieces of fiction I've ever experienced, but it is beautifully directed, full of amazing performances, including one of the best performances I've ever seen in my life, and by Indy Navarrete. And so dense with incredible thought food. I won't spoil it, of course, but with regards to the core premise and core conflict and the main character, the way you interpret his actions, the way they reflect on him, the way that you look at the character of Nikki and the way she acts in certain situations and the different ways you can interpret some of her actions, there is endless depth in this film. And I really needed to check myself upon finishing it and think, let's make sure I'm not a prisoner of the moment. Not that that's a bad thing, but I wanted to know for myself. I don't think recency bias is this horrible thing that people say it is, but I really I was curious, do I really feel this way about this film? Is it really an immediate favorite? And it stood the test of time for at least a few months. We'll see this time next year if I feel similarly, but I really think I will. This movie has inspired such thought and reflection in me, such discussion. It is so beautifully presented, beautifully directed, so dense, so rich. I truly love it. And I could put it higher, to be honest. I could put it higher. You know what? I might put it higher. Let me put it higher. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah, I was debating this. And yeah, let's do it. Sorry. Backlog just saving. Okay. The next up is the Spider-Verse duology. I pretty much consider this one entry, that's why they're next to each other. One of the most phenomenally presented movies I've seen. I eagerly anticipate the third one, even though it's been delayed, what seems like 10 times. Really adore it. Incredible music, incredible presentation, really efficient characterization and characters, great relationships throughout, iconic moments, just pure cinema. Really love this series. It's been in my top 100 for years in one way or another. And I think the third one could really catapult it even higher up the list. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Such a beautiful combination of melancholic, nostalgic, reflective of themes that are very close to me in terms of the sort of ephemeral moments in life that you can never go back to. Very funny, but also very raw and ugly in ways and sad in ways. Very beautiful. Great romantic notes throughout. Beautiful relationship in terms of its honesty, and just, I really sincerely love this movie. I'd love to rewatch it. It's been a little bit, but I have no doubt, I have tons of confidence that it is definitely one of my favorite movies. I put Obsession up to number 24. And then another new one from this year, which I watched at the beginning of the year, Marty Supreme. Incredible performance from Timothée Chalamet in portraying what is a character that is very frustrating, not a good person at all, but driven in a way that is almost hard to comprehend. It's almost like the more you see of him and his relentless drive, the more complex and the more simple he becomes. He's a character that is simultaneously incredibly simple to me, but also I don't feel like I fully understand him, nor will I ever completely understand him. I don't think I'll ever have a set idea of who he is, and I think that's beautiful about his character. The entire film revolves around him, but there is great musings about with the other characters involved with him. It's really incredibly directed. I think maybe I found it maybe a little bit ponderous in the pacing at times throughout the middle act. Maybe it could have been shaved a little bit, but I really thoroughly enjoy myself every minute. That's just me being overly critical. And I think the way it bookends itself is the way it begins, the way it ends, and the way it uses music, and the way the themes sort of come together to inform you about who Marty is genuinely genius. It felt very jarring for me at first, but it's the sort of thing where the more you think about it, the more I really love what they did with it. Awesome movie. Great way to start the year. It was the first piece of media I experienced in 2026. Next up is Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Spoiler alert, I love all three Pirates movies. I know they have flaws. I know they aren't maybe as artful as some other films in general on this list, whatever. I know some of you guys may think I'm crazy for having it above some entries, some that aren't even on this list. Another, by the way, I just thought of it. Another honorable mention for me. Oh, crap. Oh, shoot. Don't look. I just realized I forgot a film. But as I'm putting this film, let's round it out. Inglourious Bastards. I'm gonna add, let's add Interstellar. Love that movie. Christopher Nolan. Sorry, this is messy. We're doing it live. What I was just thinking was, Memento. Memento is one I absolutely forgot to put on this list. And I would put it... Yeah, I put it about there. Let's round it out and make a top 50. I can't think of any, but I need to make it an even number. The Martian. I really, really like The Martian. Ridley Scott film, really good. Let's go Django Unchained. Let's round it out with Tarantino. Okay. Again, very roughly ordered. I'll just show you what I added. I just once I realized I'm adding a 46th, I just wanted to round it out with a top 50. These are also more or less honorable mentions, but I love these movies still as well. Django Unchained, The Martian, Inglourious Basterds, and Interstellar, all awesome movies for different reasons that I feel merit being on this list for sure. I added Memento, one of my favorite Christopher Nolan movies. Incredibly mind-bending, incredibly dense, darkly funny in some ways too. I'd have it here. It's definitely a favorite. And where am I? Pirates of the Caribbean, sorry. Pirates of the Caribbean, I would have it above a lot of movies that other people might consider more artful, more just generally better. Many who might love it that would say I'm crazy for still having it above some of these that I've seen. And that's fair enough, but I truly just adore the adventure, the whimsy, the fun, the emotions, the thrills, the set pieces. There is something very special about the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and I am always willing to admit their problems, especially at World's End, which is, I think, the most flawed movie of the trilogy. I don't, Stranger Tides, the fourth movie exists. It's not a favorite of mine, but the original trilogy are. I just adore this. I think it puts a beautiful cap on the trilogy. Will and Elizabeth's character, it's incredibly moving, incredibly emotional. It, despite being very classic adventure and kind of almost a sugar-coated view of pirates, if you compare it to something like Black Sails, for instance. Even in spite of that, I think has a very heartbreaking, heartrending, conflicting, melancholic ending that stirs my soul. In unbelievable scale and epic set pieces and all that, but such a personal story as well. The dynamics, the relationships. It's a thrilling movie at World's End. Now, I think it really could be maybe even 25 to 30 minutes shorter. I think there's a lot of political maneuvering in the middle that is not uninteresting, but doesn't really need to be there, I think. But I adore Cutler Beckett. I don't mind watching him doing this maneuvering, this sort of pirates are underhanded, let's betray you, and let's do a plot with you. There's like half an hour in the middle of the film where that's a lot of that maybe it would be better if that was streamlined, but hey, I still enjoy it. This is the most out there, abstract movie. We have the stuff with Calypso, we have Davy Jones' Locker, much more heady concepts than the comparatively more mundane first two movies that I really love that it adds, and I just all around adore At World's End. I think it's incredible. It would be probably, if I had to rank them, my least favorite of the trilogy, but still adore it. Still a strong favorite. Then, my favorite Star Wars movie. Speaking of Star Wars movies, Empire Strikes Back could easily be on this list. It could easily be in and around here. But my favorite Star Wars movie is a strong favorite, which is Revenge of the Sith. I do think it has problems, especially because I'm currently reading the Revenge of the Sith novel. I do think they kind of skim over some stuff to do with the political elements. The politics in Star Wars are fascinating if they really sort of focus more on it. And that's what the book does, the novelization of this, and it makes it so thrilling. It integrates it with the Jedi point of view, with Obi-Wan, with Mace Windu, with Yoda, with Palpatine. And it's thrilling. It's absolutely so beautiful. And I'm currently in the process of seeing Revenge of the Sith become, with the combination of the movie and the novelization, one of my favorite, like a top 100 worthy-ish story, at least in the honorable mentions, or the lowest tier of it, through the novelization. Because it does improve on it in certain ways. The politics is one thing. The General Grievous as a character is another. He's really not very good in this movie. In the book, he's fascinating. So this movie does have a couple of problems. It's a little shallower in places than I wish it was, but even in spite of that, I think it is beautiful. I think it's thrilling. I think it captures the imagination. I think it beautifully sells Anakin and Obi-Wan, and Palpatine. And I like Yoda and Mace Windu, even if they're deeper in the books. And just the way it comes together as this almost operatic Greek tragedy with these heartrending scenes, Anakin and Padme's silent scene, a lot of the pivotal moments that would shape the galaxy. Very, very heartbreaking. The music is so incredible. It's one of the best scores I've heard. What the heck? I don't know what just happened. Sorry, my iTunes just big screwed up. But yeah, and the Revenge of the Sith, incredible movie. This will always be one of my favorite Star Wars media, definitely, without a doubt. The Departed, maybe my first Scorsese film, one of them for sure. Just pure cinematic entertainment. Love the intermingling plot threads. The ensemble cast is really, really great. The betrayal, the use of symbolism, the deceit upon deceit upon deceit, and how dense that gets, and how these characters dig themselves deeper and deeper, and the intermingling motivations and how you root for one versus another. It's a stunning movie. Stunning movie. Really love it. One battle after another. I've talked about this in a couple of videos on the channel, so I won't belabor the point, but I know this movie has seen a lot of criticism for its messaging. I thoroughly disagree. I think it's very clear in what it's saying, and I think it does it very effectively. I think it's beautifully taught, beautifully edited. This is a long movie, and it feels like it's half an hour with how unbelievably thrilling and engaging it is. It's funny. It flows so well, it feels so snappy, but it's so dense and rich at the same time. It's comedic, it's emotional, and I find it very, very fulfilling. I absolutely loved it. It was one of the highlights of my 2025, and as you can tell, I saw a lot of movies from 2025 that I really liked. This was cream of the crop. And one of Leo DiCaprio's best performances, I think. Then it would be Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl. It would be my second favorite. I really don't think I have anything super negative or anything negative to say about this. I think it's an absolute classic. I think it deserves to be talked about as one of the best adventure films. I absolutely love the passion that went into this film. Maybe if I'm nitpicking, the last 20 minutes or so, there's a section after what is the main plot of the movie, and then there's the last 15-20 minutes or so that kind of concludes the plot threads. That feels like a bit of an afterthought. It doesn't feel like there's as much craft put into that, and it kind of ends in a way that I'm just like, okay, I love the last scene, I didn't love the last 15-20 minutes, but it's not something that I call a flaw, just less of a positive. And purely from a preferential standpoint, the reason this isn't my favorite in the trilogy is because I prefer the tone of At World's End and Dead Man's Chest a bit more. I think they go a bit more gritty and loose with the tone of that. A bit more grimy. Whereas this first one is a bit... It's a bit too sugar-coated, I guess, in terms of the tone. Not that that's a problem, it's just I prefer the more grimy, gritty tone of the other ones. The more dirty. It's just my preference. But I love it. It's a magical movie with an incredible score, great great set pieces, great adventure, great characters. It's captured my imagination for, I don't know, nearly 20 years at this point. I saw it as a kid. I absolutely loved it. It's been one of my favorite movies ever since, and it'll always have a special place in my heart. But my favorite of the trilogy is Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. This has the better pacing of the first movie with the gritty, more abstract creativity of the third movie, without any of the flaws or the, I guess, drawbacks of each. I have no problems with this movie whatsoever. The pacing is consistently engaging, never a dull moment at all. There's never anything that feels like I want the fat to be trimmed. And I feel like every set piece is just it's everyone operating at the peak of their powers. It's thrilling, it's epic, but it also has these very personal, emotional notes. It's beautifully directed. I love so many scenes. They're painterly. So many shots and so many scenes. I love the OST. I love that it takes a bit more of a kind of in concordance with the tone, with the shifting tone. It takes a bit of a more gritty, loose, whimsical feel from the sort of grandiosity of the first one, but it doesn't lose that epic scale. And then it shifts it into more dark legends, having to do with Davy Jones Locker, the Black Spot, the Kraken, all these these thrilling, more sort of abstract, high concept stuff that are added to the lore of the story that I think make it such a beautiful, fun, thrilling film. There's this one set piece, which is the sort of the fight with Norrington, Will, and Jack on the wheel that goes throughout the island. And that shit is just so good. It's so good. It's one of my highlights of film in general. Love Pirates of the Caribbean. If I were to put these as one story, one trilogy, it's in the top 10. It's in the top 10. It's on my top 100 fiction as a trilogy. Number 16 and 15 together. It's, again, these are tough because Monogatari is one of my favorite anime stories. One of my favorite stories in general. It's in and about the top 50 fiction of all time, which shows you how much I love it, which is why it's difficult to separate my feelings with the series as a whole with that of Zoku Owari Monogatari, which is a masterful arc, more towards the end of Araragi's journey, and Kizu Monogatari, which is at the beginning. If I were to rank them, I'd put Kizu as my favorite arc in Monogatari, with Zoku Owari Monogatari very close behind. Either way, it doesn't really matter. They're the ranking. They are two of my favorite arcs in anything point blank, period. They are two of the most beautifully presented films I've ever seen, anime works I've ever seen, especially Kizu Monogatari. A bit more emotional with Owari Monogatari because it's sort of the end of that part of the journey, but the trilogy of Kizu Monogatari is a bit more visceral, and it is more fixated on what is, in my opinion, the best relationship in the series and my favorite character. One of my favorite characters of all time, one of my favorite relationships in the series. If you're wondering who I mean, maybe if you're a little eagle-eyed, look a bit closer at a figurine I have right there. It's a little hard to make out. It's Shinobu. Kiss shot. Anyways, these two movies are masterpieces. I absolutely adore them. This is roughly where I'd put them. Maybe a bit higher because I definitely, spoiler alert, I care about Monogatari as a series. I'm more emotionally connected. Let me quickly adjust. It's tough to rank parts of a series, but I think they should maybe be one or two higher. Yeah, let's do that. So I put them at 14 and 15. And instead, but it just as good as them, but lacking, I guess, the emotional connection and maybe, yeah, the emotional connection, which could be down to the series they're in. Maybe if I just watched Kizu Monogatari on its own, thought of that as one cohesive story, it would be below Inception. Who knows? But whatever. Inception. One of my absolute favorite films. I had an interesting relationship with it where I watched it, loved it, loved the plot. The first watch of Inception is mind-bending. And there's nothing quite like the first watch because so much of it depends on the plot and the plot twists and seeing the concepts come to play for the first time. However, and then there was a few years, so I saw this maybe upon release, maybe a bit after that, and I loved it, and for a couple of years, it was one of my favorite movies of all time. Then I went through a phase for a few years where I went, yeah, but it's just plot. I don't actually love it that much. It's just kind of plot. It's just a brilliant plot, but it doesn't have a lot of staying power. It isn't very rich. There were for 5 to 7 years or so, I felt that way. But then I revisited it. And I don't know what I was thinking, because this movie absolutely stands the test of time. It is absolutely incredibly rich. There are emotional sequences that, to me, absolutely hold up. I love the cast. I love the... I think even though, once you know the plot, it's something that can't be put back together. You can't rediscover the magic of understanding the plot for the first time. But it's endlessly deep, and seeing it all come to fruition, and the twists sort of come as they do, to me, there's a magic in that on rewatches absolutely holds up. The idea of Inception, the concept of Inception, the relationships therein, how it all... there's a magic there to me that I never get sick of, and I absolutely adore it. It's, I think, my third favorite Nolan, technically. Yeah, it's unreal. Number 13, very new to this list. This could be recency bias because I literally finished this a week ago. Dune Part 2. I just binged the first two Dune movies, well, the only two Dune movies, last week. Made a video about it. A lot of you guys commented on that. Appreciate it. Love discussing the characters within it and the plot and the world and all that. The point I'm trying to get across is I just finished this. This is by far the entry most susceptible to recency bias. But if you know me, sometimes I have recency bias. And again, nothing wrong with that. People demonize it. I don't think that's a problem. But I tend to not be very susceptible for it. Of course, once in a while it happens, but if you look at things I put in ranking lists very soon after I finish them, they are often there a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, and they often rise. They often do better with age. All this to say, yada yada, that doesn't really matter. Dune Part 2 is absolutely one of the best movies I have ever seen. I won't dwell on it a lot because I have a whole 44 or so minute video on the first two movies gushing about this. But the visuals, the world, some of the best visuals I've ever seen. Some of the best dialogue I've ever seen. Incredible cast, very emotional, very gripping, very thrilling, politically dense, thematically unbelievable. One of the most fascinating universes I've seen. And such a complex character in Paul Atreides through what happens to him in his journey, and I cannot wait for Part 3. It fires on all cylinders. It is absolutely epic and grand, and yet very intimate and emotional and personal. With so much to say, it is a unbelievable movie, especially Part 2. I love Part 1 as well. Part 1 could be in this list as an honorable mention or so, but Part 2 specifically is a classic to me, and like I said, just finished it last week, but I think it'll be on this list for years to come. Hopefully Part 3 will join it. And yeah, if you can't tell, by the time we enter the top 20 to 25 or so, we are in serious favorites. Number 12, Whiplash. This is something that is super, super me-core. It's absolutely one of my favorite films. I think that if I really think about it, let me see my top 100. Yeah, it's been in my honorable mentions list for quite a while, but I do sincerely think that it has moved. It has potential to go up. I really love Whiplash. I love how many different ways you can interpret. Firstly, its main character Andrew, but especially Terrence Fletcher, who to me is one of the best movie characters straight up that I've ever seen. So much of what it says about the cautionary, about what it takes to reach greatness, but how it portrays that as incredibly cautionary. I've seen some people celebrate it as inspirational. Me, I tend to be on the side of looking at it as something that is disturbing, upsetting in some ways, very upsetting, but so incredibly real. And there are so many elements to it, elements of Fletcher's character, elements of Andrew's character, of their relationship, of the ultimate final message of it, that I think you can go back and forth on and debate internally and with other people about what's actually being said. But the most important thing to me is that it is, start to finish, a absolute visceral thriller with incredible density about the quest for greatness and what it means to be great in whatever field, and the sacrifices sometimes that feel like they are necessary, and are they worth it? It's a shocking, thought-provoking, rich, dense, thrilling, beautifully acted masterpiece of a movie. I adore Whiplash. It's only gotten better for me over the years. 7. Rewatched it, just about missing out on the top 10, but it could be in the top 10, honestly. Rewatched this a few months ago to see if it would hold up. It absolutely held up. One of the best pieces of fiction I've ever seen in terms of atmosphere. I love the ambiguity of the town. I love how it's unnamed. I love the noir element to it, how it digs into the deepest depravities of mankind, and how it says through its design of its setting that this could be anywhere. And what it says about humanity, the hope it gives, and the devastation it gives. I talked about this in my sort of media reflection video, so I won't spend too much time on it, but it is a masterpiece, and it's better than I remembered. I watched it 12, 14 years ago for the first time. Loved it. Watched it again a few months ago. Loved it even more. Into the top 10. This is a very formative movie for me. It's one of the first times I've been truly shocked at a plot, but I've gone back and rewatched it time and time again, and it absolutely holds up. It is a gripping, stirring, tragic, mind-bending, atmospherically beautiful, dense, totally thrilling and gutting movie that I think is endlessly deep, super complex in so many ways, and yet in some ways simple as well. It's just start to finish a masterwork to me. It's a total masterwork. It's very close to me for being Scorsese's best work. It's arguably his best work for me. It's one of DiCaprio's best performances. It's really sad. It's really horrifying. The twists and turns, I love seeing people react to it. It's just straight up a movie that is so for me. I don't know if people would have it this high in their own personal lists. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but either way, it is absolutely one of my personal favorites. Number 9. There was a time where this was my favorite movie of all time for years on end. It, as it stands, is absolutely still one of them. And it's not gone down in my estimation as much as maybe my taste has changed. And I've watched more movies that have gone ahead of it. But Fight Club. A complete and total masterpiece that through the years has only gotten more relevant for me personally, that I think is widely misunderstood, which only in some ways makes me appreciate it more. Beautifully acted, incredibly slick, one of the best presented things I've ever seen. A dark comedy in some ways, very satirical, but also incredibly gutting in some ways. The texturizing and the way it layers it through the presentation, through the, I guess, layers it adds to the plot and the characters, it just adds texture upon texture upon texture upon texture to deepen its messages. and just give you this incredibly rich experience, directorially, thematically. It's so dense with stuff. Every time I rewatch it, I feel like I learned something new. It is truly a fascinating, dark, gritty, hilarious film with such density and richness. I adore it. I absolutely adore it. But I'm not one of those people who thinks of it as a blueprint for how to act, because let's just put it this way. It's very widely misunderstood. It reminds me a lot of how people misinterpret Walter White in Breaking Bad. I'll just put it that way. But what it does have to say, and the way it says it, is so unbelievably effective, and it's a masterpiece. Number 8, I believe my favorite Scorsese film, The Wolf of Wall Street. I guess it's a lower score than these. Let me change that. One of the most hilarious movies I've ever seen, but at the same time, and these scenes, there are a few pieces of media that get me to laugh on command. I think it's such an absolutely hilarious movie. That, at the same time, through its hilarity, also condemns a lot of its characters, because there are so many horrible people in this movie. Most of which the main character. But it also shows a lament of the quest for decadence, how personal pride and ego and hubris can dig people so deep and leave them with nothing. And that duality and how it combines this pure, beautiful entertainment that I just love to watch, because it just thrills me with how entertaining and hilarious and amazingly directed, incredibly directed it can be. But it juxtaposes that with a sincere lament and sadness that I find so profound. I absolutely love this movie. I always have, always will. It's completely one of my favorites. The Dark Knight. Actually rewatched this a few days ago. Numbers 7 to 10 or 11 or so could be swapped a little bit, but I would have The Dark Knight here as it stands. What is there to be said about it? One of film's great characters for whom the entire film revolves around. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I think I really like Harvey Dent a lot, and I think Bruce is a fascinating character concept. I do like Alfred, but generally I don't really find myself enthralled with the cast of this film. But what really brings it all together is the Joker, and how everything in this film bends to his will. It makes him an antithesis, and it makes it a comprehensive story in and of itself, but it does not at all defeat the Joker in any way. R.I.P. Heath Ledger, it's one of the best performances I've ever seen. Everyone talks about it, I'm saying nothing new here. It truly is an achievement, and I absolutely love that the Batman has an answer, but not a confident answer to what the Joker proposes. And that's how I think it should be with this sort of thing, with the tone the movie is trying to get across. There are some sequences in this that, of course, that center around the Joker, that are just unreal. The interrogation scene, the car chase and the confrontation on the street, both scenes where he tells you how he got his scars, the ambiguity of his character, how he keeps you guessing, and to this day, I constantly find myself finding new interpretations for this version of the Joker. I can make this pencil disappear. All these scenes, iconic for a reason. It's a masterpiece, and it's very close to being my favorite Nolan, but not quite. Number 6, Parasite. Rewatched this last year. This is the perfect movie. It is absolutely perfect. One of the most visually stunning things I've ever seen. The use of symbolism, allegory to get across its messages is to die for. Unbelievable. And it integrates that with genuine emotion and gets its themes across better than almost anything I've ever seen. Parasite is genuinely perfect. I was shocked. When I first watched it, I thought it was incredible. My second watch of it last year, I was shocked at just how good it was. Was it last year? Maybe it was this past year. Earlier in this year. Either way. Yeah, and one of the best things I've ever seen. One of the best films I've ever seen. My favorite Nolan, it's close, but not actually much of a conversation. I think there's some separation there. Oppenheimer. This is, to me, Nolan's magnum opus. I think it just is him firing, on all cylinders. I think maybe in some of his films I have some issues with the structure of it. Maybe in some films I have some issues with the pacing or the messaging here and there. Or maybe not everything was perfect. Maybe I didn't connect with the characters as much as I could have. Oppenheimer has absolutely everything. It is, to me, the most artfully crafted, majestic movie. Do you hear the music sequence is to die for. It is one of the most mesmeric things I've ever seen. It is so thrilling and taut. It is another one of those movies that is very long, but feels so quick because it's so beautifully edited together. And it just feels like it goes by in a snap. So much of this movie is just conversation, riveting, beautiful dialogue, incredibly edited with incredible synchronization with the soundtrack to make it this cohesive experience that is so good. I think it gets its messages across so beautifully. There's just one thing which feels a little inconsistent with it, which is that I think Strauss's character, to me, is portrayed with a bit less subtlety and nuance and richness than I think the rest of the film portrays him with. The rest of the film is executed with, I guess. I think, without spoiling too much, there's a bit too much of a slam dunk on him. There's a bit too much of shoving his face in the dirt and being like a bit of a gotcha, a bit of a triumph, making it a triumph. I don't know, it felt a bit heavy-handed with the way that the conclusion of Strauss's character is done. And that's my one thing that I'm a little uncertain on about the film. But I said literally Parasite is perfect. I have nothing negative to say about Wolf of Wall Street, Fight Club, Shutter Island, Seven, The Dark Knight. A lot of these films, I have nothing negative to say about it. Dune, Whiplash. And still, I have Oppenheimer ahead of them. That tells you how much its strengths really resonate with me. It is, to me, Nolan's magnum opus. I don't think he'll ever make a film better than this. And that last scene will always stick with me. Neon Genesis Evangelion, End of Evangelion. If I connect this, I'm trying my best to make this its own independent film. And I'm struggling because I automatically want it to be higher than number 4. Eva is higher than Evangelion and End of Evangelion as a cohesive story is higher than every film on this list. It would be number 1. And I'm thinking, should Evangelion, End of Eva be number 1? Maybe I should just put it number 1 because of that. It is a masterpiece. I've talked about this for years on end. I'm not going to bore you with... But it is the strangest, most bizarre, beautifully directed, hard to come to grips with in some ways, encapsulation of what Eva is, of what Shinji is, of a beautiful declaration of the triumphs of life and what it means to live in humanity, while fully acknowledging the ugliness and tragedy of the human condition and all of that, and how genuine it is to feel scared of that, to feel like you want to avoid everything to do with life because of how harmful it is, but at the same time, how beautiful it is to have that hope. It's so dense. Every single minute is filled with incredible character work, incredible thematic presentation and communication and execution, tragedy, high concept scale and strangeness. It's just the perfect movie. It's beyond perfect. I'm going to switch this to make it number 1. But number 3 is The Fellowship of the Ring. Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. It is definitely, I really like Return of the King, and I love Two Towers. They're fantastic movies, and the trilogy as a whole is incredible. But Fellowship of the Ring is definitely my favorite. And to me, it works as a cohesive story in and of itself. I think you can end... Obviously, the story goes on. But I rewatched The Fellowship and just The Fellowship feeling fulfilled. The story of The Fellowship, to me, is a cohesive, comprehensive story, narrative, of which there is love, there is tragedy, there is triumph and drama and thrills and adventure and fantasy and epic scope and horrors. I think the Nazgul are horrifying. The direction is incredible. There are so many beautiful, again, painterly shots throughout this. It captures my heart and soul and mind endlessly. I have loved this movie from the moment I saw it, and it's only grown in my heart. It is absolutely a masterpiece and one of the best movies I've ever seen. And Boromir is one of my favorite film characters. The best character in this movie. This is in the conversation for my favorite movie of all time. Number 2, The Social Network. My favorite Fincher film. It is ingenious in its structure. I think with endless profundity and depth with what it is trying to say, and the texturing within the direction, the audiovisual direction, and how that comes across. To me, it has one of the most beautiful aesthetics of a film. The beautifully cozy college dorms, the campus, it is so authentic in how it gets all of that across. The sort of humble beginnings, while at the same time feeling slightly luxurious with the, comparatively, it's still humble beginnings, but there is a almost in its own world quality to being in university, being in college, being on campus, and going to the bars on a school night, going on a date in the bars. I've experienced these sort of things myself, hanging out with friends at a faculty night at a bar, hanging out with your floor if you live on residence. I've experienced all these things, and I watched The Social Network at a period of my life where I was kind of looking forward to that. Then I rewatched it again during that point in my life, and it resonated with me so much. It captures the college experience, the coming of age, and just the beautiful feel of being at that point of your life. The sights, the sounds, the autumn feel of the trees, and the that smell of autumn, and how it reminds you of school and university. I don't know, maybe I'm just talking out of my ass, but and the varsity sweaters and the athletes and all the campus buildings. The Social Network gets that very, very personal, intimate feeling across like nothing else, but it is also just a beautifully structured, brilliantly conceived tale of ambition and the costs of it, and of a very conflicting, fascinating man. I absolutely adore this film like nothing else. But if I were to say what my favorite movie is of all time, something that I think has always been my favorite movie of all time, since I saw it, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Firstly, whenever I talk about anything Harry Potter, just always got to get it out of the way. Fuck J.K. Rowling. Horrible person. Despise her. However, having said that, actually, there's no howevers about it. In spite of that, this is my favorite version of anything to do. There's an element of me that cannot escape what Harry Potter did for me. It helped me fall in love with fiction. It helped me fall in love with fictional worlds. It shaped me in incredibly positive ways to be the person I am, and that's never going to stop being a part of me in spite of how much I despise J.K. Rowling. And I think it's important to state that while at the same time being clear about, I guess, your stance on her. Whatever, you know what I mean. Having said all that, my favorite part of the story is Alfonso Cuarón's beautiful, flowing, imaginative, abstract, creative vision for Prisoner of Azkaban. This was the perfect director for the perfect entry. I really wish I could have seen his take on the rest of the films, but he is an auteur. He had other stuff to do. It is what it is. And the way he reimagined Hogwarts, he decided, he saw the interconnected sets. I have a 3+ hour video on the Harry Potter series where I talk about Prisoner of Azkaban and all the other films at great length. So check that out if you want a full dissection and analysis. But oh my god. Sorry. The visual storytelling in this film is out of this world. It is my favorite visual movie visually. Not necessarily in that it looks the best, although I think it arguably does. Not necessarily in that the shot composition and storyboarding is the best, although maybe it is, but just in terms of the way, if you watch this movie from start to finish, it almost, maybe never, but it almost never stops moving. It is very intentionally meant to be dynamic and always moving to replicate the feeling of that Harry felt at this point in his life during his adolescence, as if, and it integrates with the idea of time moving too fast in some cases, too slow in others, and Harry feeling like he's overwhelmed by how time is going at that point in his life. The constant allusion to the clock motif, the way that the environmental storytelling and the parts of Hogwarts are used to tell a story. It's ingenious. It's absolutely ingenious. Every element of the visual storytelling is incredible, and it syncs with one of my favorite soundtracks ever. To me, this is such an autumn film with the almost medieval feel to the soundtrack. It's my favorite John Williams work. I think the acting is fantastic. There are some funny little goofs. There are some, I guess, bloopers in the movie, some continuity errors. I don't tend to be someone who cares about that. There are some movies, I think Pirates of the Caribbean has a bit of that. I think Obsession has a couple of those. I don't really tend to care about that much. But there are some in this, and I think it actually kind of almost lends itself to something else about this movie, which is the first two movies in the Harry Potter series, Chamber of Secrets and Philosopher's Stone, offer this beautiful magical feel to them, but they are a bit too... for me, they're great for what they were, and I wouldn't want them to change, but they're very sort of perfect. I say that in that they are a bunch of beautiful sets that don't necessarily flow a lot of the time. They're a bunch of really wondrously made up, wondrous. It's a very wondrous tone, magic. And that's great for the first two movies. However, in this movie, things get a bit more mature, a bit more unhinged, a bit more casual to reflect the growing up of the students. The uniforms are done more casually. There's a bit more rough humor, a bit more slice-of-life moments of these kids just goofing around that may not add anything, that may cut a more important plot scene in favor of just showing these kids being kids and these relationships flourishing. But I love that shit. There's a minute-long scene that has nothing to do with the plot, that has nothing to do but establishing an atmosphere, a constant atmosphere throughout this movie, that is absolutely brilliant. Sorry, I just got lost in thought about this, how imaginative and beautiful this movie is. That maybe people are upset that maybe a Quidditch match got cut in favor of this, or something to do with, I don't know, the plot that was cut, because there are a lot of cuts, but I love the cohesive vision. Could the movie have been longer? Could they have lingered more on elements of the backstory? Yeah, there are some things missing for sure. This isn't a perfect movie, but I wouldn't have it any other way, because maybe the pacing would be different. Maybe it wouldn't feel as tight and magical and cohesive. Alfonso Cuarón adds this wonderful mystical, whimsical feel to Hogwarts that was never there before, and I don't think was ever replicated. The magic here is so darkly whimsical. It's something that feels beyond. It's something that feels unknown and untapped, but that does not take itself too seriously. And I adore that. I absolutely adore that. I was saying maybe End of Evangelion I should put at number 1. I think I can adequately, despite Neon Genesis Evangelion, like I said, as a series, I love the Eva story more than any of these movies. It's ahead of all these movies in my top 100. However, I think I can separate it enough to keep End of Eva at number 4. Yeah, that's fine. Because the more I've been talking about my top 3, I'm like, yeah, I want them to stay my top 3. Oppenheimer, Parasite, masterpieces. If we don't consider anime films to be a part of this, that's my top 5. Prisoner of Azkaban, Social Network, Fellowship with the Ring, Oppenheimer, Parasite. But man, hell of a crowd to follow as well. Anyways, guys, I thought this video might be 20 to 25 minutes. It is an hour, 10 minutes. I hope this podcast, this monster of a video, has been enjoyable. I have a stream tomorrow. I gotta go rest my voice. Thank you so much for listening. Feel free to share your thoughts on any of my favorites that I've talked about here. Sorry for fumbling around with the list and editing it throughout this, but hey, some people like that authentic touch to these videos. Feel free to share some of your favorite films. Maybe you can check out my letterbox if you want to know what I've watched, but maybe you're curious about why something didn't make the list, or a lot of cases it just doesn't hit as much for whatever reason, or maybe I had problems with it, who knows. But feel free to share your favorites as well. I'd love to hear some of your favorites. Again, I'm not a film buff. I'm not someone who's watched endless movies, and I have so many I want to watch. For example, Schindler's List, I think, would be on this list. However, it's been so long since I watched it, I need to refresh. I don't remember anything from it. Same with The Godfather. I need to rewatch it. I don't remember anything. Stuff like that. There's some of those cases that maybe rewatches could reshape this list. It's very in flux. Anyways, thank you so much. Dune Part 3, I'm sure we'll be here too. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Really appreciate it. Sorry again for the length of this. My God, it's a monster. But I do love talking about my favorite stuff. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.